Hello everyone, I'd like to start this short advanced vocabulary lesson with an example. So I'd like you to imagine that you're looking for a job. In fact, it's your first job because you've just finished your studies, you've got some qualifications and you're enthusiastically looking to join the job market. But that enthusiasm dissipates quite quickly when you realize that every job vacancy you come across specifies that you need experience in order to get the job. But of course, you've never had a job before, so you don't have any experience. So you need experience to get a job, but you also need a job to get experience. Now that is a classic example of what we call a catch-22 situation. Now, a catch-22 situation is describing a paradoxical situation in which the solution to a problem is also the problem. So it's impossible to resolve the problem. Now, we don't come across these situations every day, but when we do, we need to know how to refer to them, and catch-22 is the best way. And it's quite interesting that the origin of this expression is quite recent. It's from a book from 1961. It was published in 1961, in which the protagonist is a fighter pilot in the Second World War, and he wants to avoid being sent on these very dangerous missions with very risky, very high possibility of being killed. So of course he wants to get out of these missions. So he goes to the doctor and pleads insanity. So he says, I'm insane, I'm crazy, because that was the only way that these fighter pilots could avoid being sent on these missions. It was to prove that they were insane. So when this protagonist went to the doctor and said, I'm insane, the doctor said, well, that can't be true because only a sane person would come to me to try to avoid getting out of these missions. So the only way to get out of going on the missions was to prove that you're insane, but you can't be insane if you go to the doctor. So that's the whole premise of the book, and that's where the origin of Catch-22 comes from. I highly recommend you read the book. But just to give you another example to make sure you really get it, my football team, for example, it's West Ham United, and in recent seasons we've got very close to qualifying for the Champions League. But to take that next step to get there, we need to sign some better players. We need to attract better players. But the really good players don't want to go to West Ham because they are not in the Champions League. So we need good players to be in the Champions League, but the good players don't want to go to West Ham because we are not in the Champions League. So again, it's this paradoxical situation. It's a catch-22 situation. But I'm sure that you, in your own language, you do have something similar. So put in the comments what you think is the equivalent in your own language. And as always, think of your own examples and put them in the comments. It's a little bit tricky to think of examples for catch-22, but if you can think of one, it will really help you to remember it. Okay, thank you for joining me again, and I'll see you very soon for another video.